guys, my name is Skye and this is JJ and we have the Raw Food Podcast, and today we'll be talking on the raw food algorithm. I saved my life with a raw food diet. JJ got rid of all this pain in her body and changed her life. So welcome, and hey JJ.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to have this conversation. Well, I know it's not Monday where you are, but it makes Monday my favorite day.
Oh, I love that. And I love that we always talk about basically mindset. Like the
Yes.
mindset, because as many people say, the food isn't the problem. You've got to get into the right mindset, and that really determines how successful you are. And I can see Tessa there. Hey Tessa.
Hi, Tessa. She's always so kind to come. I feel like, is that what it is? Oh, it's the overlay. Okay, I kept thinking something was on my
Oh, I've
actual.
had that happen before. No, that's just so the comments
Okay.
can come up. Okay, so do you want to get started, JJ, with talking about the raw algorithm and how that works for you and basically what it is?
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a story that I used to tell a long time ago before I was vegan, and it was about it was about an egg, but I'm not going to say that. So we'll do a plantain and a coffee bean and a carrot, right? When you put them into like a pot of boiling water, it seems that the other two kind of change because of their environment. But the coffee bean, the idea of it was it actually changes the very environment that it's in. The boiling water, it creates it into like coffee, right? So I know that's not a raw vegan thing, but it reminded me of how almost you have to be when you become raw vegan or when you become into a healthier lifestyle than everyone around you. You almost have to be that person that creates your environment as opposed to allowing it to make you, change yourself. So sometimes when we're around people and it's, people are eating differently, or everything in our house is set up exactly the same as it used to be, and you still have all the same foods and things around, it's very difficult. But if you're confident in it and you bring lots of fruits and fresh vegetables and you make your kitchen vibrant and you immerse yourself in podcasts like this, like I did, and health transformations, health benefits of raw food, when you start to like change your own algorithm, both in your physical and mental environment, I find that's the best way to do it. So you're confident when you're around other people in what you're doing instead of allowing them to kind of, convince you that you're not doing the right thing.
Sorry, my mic was off there because there's someone outside that's drilling. But yeah, I completely agree. And I think when it comes to creating a raw algorithm, it's not just, as you said, internal, it's external. And speaking of external, I think we all have to accept our limits. So if you are out with friends or family and you get to a point where all you want to do is eat everything, when you first go raw or high raw, you have to respect yourself enough to leave the environment. If you've been around, especially at the start, I could only do small doses of environments which were not conducive to being outside in nature or a whole lot of fresh foods, because I had 40 years of doing what everybody around me is doing, and now I'm standing strong and saying, no, Skye, my environment, well, my internal environment has to be raw foods to stay well. This is all too much. You can excuse yourself. And I know people have families and everything like that. And it may be a matter of taking your veggie sticks or your fruit and just sitting outside by yourself for a period of time to do a bit of a reset, because it's not worth, just say you're 6 weeks into raw foods and you go out for lunch and you're about to throw it all in, not because of a craving you have, but because that environment around you is giving you too many cues. So I think what you said is really important about, surrounding yourself with the fresh foods. But when you, especially that first year, even into 2 years, when you can be so triggered, you have to have a strong enough algorithm that you've built around the raw foods that you deserve not to eat it, but you'll leave. And that really forms back into the algorithm we want you guys to create for yourself.
Absolutely. And it all starts too with, and I think we talked about this once before, the principles, understanding the principles of your body, how your body is a self-healing machine, wanting to put good things in, learning that underlying reason that you are, staying strong and doing it, as opposed to just reading it off of a textbook, or you're trying it because someone else is doing it. You really have to start to believe in it. And that takes time. You go to different levels of your belief system. As you start to heal, you start to really buy into it. And you can start by listening to it. Sorry about that. But it actually ends up, until you hear it and you believe it and you see it for yourself and you start feeling the effects, that's going to keep you motivated to keep going. But it has to be something that truly feel that you want for yourself, and that helps keep you in that algorithm, really. And the more you hear about others and meet other people, you realize you're not as different. And that's why I love our online community.
Well, I think what people don't realize, and we forget, and maybe we find it a bit more with the raw foods, is everybody is literally in their own world. Like,
Mhm.
as much as we think and try and like be like people around us, and that's what makes raw foods hard, is in our own head. Everybody, most of the day, even if you're around people, is in their own world. And what this is about is creating the world which makes you feel your best. Because when you accept that, all the times that people say, oh, I ate this way because everyone around me was offering me food, they're not with you for the next 3 days while you feel like crap. Like, I'm not even
Mhm.
talking like with you in comfort. I'm talking about in your head when you get up in the morning, when you take off your pajamas, when you wash your face, when you have a shower. This isn't even 2 minutes into your day. Well, maybe it's about
Right.
5 minutes into your day, but it's just you. And when you accept that it's just you, I feel we're capable of so much more. Like, the chips or the food you ate to comfort someone in 1 second, when they're like, come on, have it. They're then going, got to feed the dog, got the kids, I'm going to the toilet. They don't think about you. You've got to
Mhm.
do this, have this algorithm that's so strong inside of you for you, because basically it is just you. And I think humans find that really hard to accept because we don't like to be alone. But I
Mhm.
think when you do more raw foods in nature, you realize like the whole universe, especially natural things, are all there for you. And they're a good support system when you feel that you're going to sway. But when people tell me they're doing something for someone else, is that person is not thinking about you. Maybe when they offered you whatever it is, but they don't think about you. They've got so much, they've got their own life, their own family, their own animals, or whatever they've got going on. So you have to do you.
And they're pulling you into their algorithm, in a sense, right? They're like,
True.
here, take this, come be like me. And we're all individuals. We can connect on different levels. We don't have to necessarily connect around the food, even if food is part of the celebration. Like, the birthday is about honoring the person's birthday that it is. It's not really about having the cake. The cake is the nostalgic part, but as long as you have bring your own treat there, you can all still connect around the cake. But I think also, I had this little meme, I guess it was, that I put out once. It was like, you are what you eat, not what they eat, right? Like you said, your cells and everything, and the way that you feel are responding to it, and healing your self, and keeping yourself feeling your best to show up for that person might mean not eating whatever it is they were offering you.
Yeah, and I just want to bring up this comment, because I think this is something as well, where Tessa said, I was an undercover raw vegan while living with my family. Now, I don't know what exactly that means, but if it's too much for you to face, it's okay to just say, I'm making healthier choices. You don't have to say, I'm a raw foodist, because I feel like it can trigger so many people if you're not ready for people to go, oh, you don't get enough nutrients, you're not getting enough this, you're not getting enough that. But if in general you just say, I'm improving my health,
Hmm.
um, you know, be so real with where you're at with your algorithm. Don't bump your algorithm up to be like, I'm just going to have juices for this next year. And it's just not a reality you are ready to face. And then so others will reflect the doubts and you will feel the doubts even more. But just say you're doing higher raw, and you just, it's a lot for you to take in, because it is a big change. is it's good for you. You don't have, your whole family doesn't have to know. You can just say eating healthy. Salad again, yep, eating healthy, until you're ready to face what you have. Because that's another thing I always talk about is don't jump your algorithm. Don't jump too high. That's how we injure ourselves. You want to just step by step. So just sit where you're comfortable and you be confident. Yep, just being healthy.
That is so true. And if you're not strong and confident, like we I was talking about earlier, if you haven't immersed yourself in the lifestyle and really bought into what you're doing yourself, that's where it comes off where you start to second guess yourself almost, when people are saying this about the nutrients and this and that. Not that you haven't, maybe done a little bit of research, but if you don't, like when I went raw, it just felt so right from the beginning. It wasn't a whole lot that I needed to really figure out once that logistically happened. Like, wow, all these years I felt like this and I'm eating like this and I feel like this. It made so much sense. And everything I learned, it was supporting that same idea why I was feeling so good. But sometimes if we go in too early, like to your point, and other people are trying to get into your head, you might start looking for reasons why you should stop being on this healthy diet because you're not ready yet to be experiencing that basically.
Well, the brain wants to match what you think. It constantly searches. So if you decide to go raw but don't really believe in it, is the brain and will reflect back to you what your belief system is. So
Hmm.
you're going to get everybody at a party saying, what is raw? Is this good? Is it not? Are you sure this is very different? And if you have any doubts or you feel insecure, this would just keep matching till you're like, I've thought about this and that's right. And that's why I think be so for real with what algorithm you can cope with. You can always head forward, but you don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to believe in it, because whatever you believe in is basically what the brain's job is to just seek out. And this is why I always talk about so much about love and gratitude and practicing it, because the universe has to reflect back what you believe. And there's a comment down here. Where have I got it? Here. I'm with you, Rocky. Hey, Rocky, by the way. I love to be alone, probably too much according to people, but I think connecting to nature and animals is as important as with people. I know myself better because of time I spend alone, especially in nature, especially full of raw foods in nature. Even with animals, a lot of the time can become a distraction when you're around a lot of people, because people, when you're around, I think one or two, or even just one, I think you can get to know someone a lot more. But group mentality is basically a whole lot of conditioning, and you want to be part of that condition as opposed to actually self discovery. I think I even do better with people in nature. I find it easy with kids too, but I find a lot of getting to know me is alone time. So I like that that was said.
I agree. I totally am like an alone kind of person too. And I do like enjoy these types of things and having conversations. But I've learned over the years that I've been raw vegan, it's not just the food. I've learned to incorporate all of those things into my day. Getting outside is so important, and just experiencing some form of relaxation and like being in your own space, because for so long we're distracting ourselves usually from being in our own space. So I love the fact that I think a lot of people are kind of leaders and forward thinkers that do things like this because we're not following the crowd. So I think a lot of raw vegans I experienced that pretty much experience the same thing, that they like some form of alone time too.
Yeah. What else have we got here? So Megan said you are your choices, and that's true. And that's, we're already making those choices in our head before we get somewhere and actually make the choices. So that's why I wanted to come across to talking more about setting up, because that's the external, situation is who you're around. But what do we do to create the correct internal environment And how I found the only way I could do that was by actions. And I bring up
Mhm.
this conversation I had with Chris Kendall when I was first raw about, he's been raw for like 20 years, about how when your whole life is falling apart and you can't think or do your way out of a situation, if you put packets of sunlight inside your body, like raw food, you have to change. And for me, that is conducive to me, well, having the correct algorithm is I have to put packets of light inside my body. Otherwise, I become too dense, and my algorithm is a reflection of what I've eaten. So
Mhm.
for me, even when I've gone through times where not, I can question it a little bit, or I'm just having cravings. Is my What I found works for me is not sitting and thinking through it, because if I'm at this point, I'm in a low vibration. I worked out for me, I have to do. I have to make sure that night I have something raw. I have to make sure that I get outside, have to make sure that I do some movement. The power for me in the doing, and anyone following can share what they do, but I build my algorithm and keep it strong every day by doing.
Totally agree with that. And I even have, well, you probably see me share it, my little checklist that I put out to make sure that I'm doing that, because I can get into what I'm doing at, working or whatever it is, creating, and forget about those things. But I've learned I have to take that time, because that's going to add up. If I don't go outside and get some sunlight, if I don't do my exercise, if I don't eat the highest amount of raw food, maybe if I'm grabbing something quick on the go that's not my normal, it multiplies, and then the next day I'm not as productive, or I'm not feeling as motivated, I don't get as much done, I'm not maybe the same, energy levels. Like, it definitely all ties into each other, maybe not right away, but if you put days and days together like that you're not, taking that time for yourself to keep your algorithm how you like it, and not putting other things in front of your health, which I think a lot of us do for a lot of our life. We ignored symptoms and just kept going, going, going. So I think it also allows us to slow down and realize that, this is where we live inside this body is taking care of us. And that has to be the first and foremost thing that we think of, because it's really the basis of everything else that we do. More important than, I realize, any job or anything that I'm doing in life, my health is the first thing that I need to think of. And not even my health, but my body itself.
Yeah, and I think at the density we all enter in, we all come in thinking of health. So I think once you're on raw foods, it's like I can live my true path. I can be with, spirit and God and source, and I can be in love. But I think at the level we all enter, this lifestyle is it's so dense and heavy. We're so focused on dis-ease. So the
Hmm.
whole reason most people come to this is some specific ailment that they're hyper focused on. Once you fill your body with freshness and you get outside, you start to see a reality which is completely different than being consumed by one ailment of pain. The other interesting thing is once you start eating this way is you might have this, I always refer to, you might have a sore knee you want to get rid of, but next minute that creaky neck has gone, the brain fog's gone, the depressions, all these things you took for granted for like 20, 30 years
Yes.
just vanish. And that's when it comes to, I just think it's harder for people. I don't think I could see the like true source, spirit, God, true love and self-love until I was filled with packets of light and outdoors. I would love to say that even the times where I was very sick and talking to source, it was desperation. It wasn't a reflection of like, I'm so grateful. I feel so full of love. I can feel nourishment. It was like, I'm going to die. Please don't let me die.
Right.
I'm in pain. Get me out of pain. And when I be out of pain, I'm like, God, thank you. It was all. And so my universe probably consistently reflected that. And back to what Chris said about how, when in doubt, even when you are depressed and miserable and you think you can't get through, eating that hamburger is just mirroring your crappy feelings. You have to
Mhm.
climb up a little and just do a few meals of that. Maybe if you're having cravings or maybe you've gone off the wagon, because your perception changes. And no matter how I see it, if I start having too much, and I've said this before, dehydrated foods and tamaris and stuff, is before you know it, you're like, oh, I could just add this to, not that I have, just your brain, and you're not thinking of the whole picture, like you, self-love and God and nature. So I think it's really important that, well, for me at least, and my algorithm, that I keep light inside of me, to keep light flooding towards me.
Yes, and gratitude was something that just like went up like to 150,000% when I've always been a thankful person. But like you said, it just felt like a calmness that came across me, which was one of the bonus things. You know, it was first just wanting to lose weight. Then we, like you said, the physical things that clear up like pain and allergies and things. And then it's like, then all these mental benefits that we've talked about. And as you go through layers of this, you find that, you know, because we, like you said, we come into it sometimes that we're healing something, we almost can go too far into it to a point where we're being hard on ourselves again. So I found that just coming off of that a little, like you said, but then it can sometimes make you add too much, like, oh, I'm having like, okay, let me have this won't hurt, like you said, you know, I'm going to eat some nuts or walnuts, and then I might eat too many. But it's all about that learning experience and not restricting myself, at least initially, and figuring it out on my own. That's how my algorithm has had to be created. I just wasn't able to, you know, anytime I tried to mirror someone else's exact style, it wouldn't work.
100%. And that's what's hard about this journey and building the algorithm, is we are supposed to make mistakes, like all of a sudden eating half a bag of cashews, and then you can't get rid of the pain or suffering. You have to sit with those emotions, but let those emotions teach you and not become you. So
Mhm.
you can be like, I feel heavy, I don't feel good, I feel disoriented, but don't let it be, you're bad, you shouldn't have had that, you're worthless, you know, this is binging disorder, and just get into that mindset, because you want to feel, you're pulling yourself so far down, you'll want to cling on to more
Mhm.
to feel better. And whereas it's like, accept it what it was, there's a ton of nutrients in cashews. And, you know, tomorrow, you know, you might give it a rest for a couple of days, and know from now on, if you open that jar, you're going to pull 4 out, shut it, and put it away. But it's very difficult for people to understand that when you're on this journey, sometimes you can't, well, I don't know whether ever you can find the answer in a podcast or even in nature. What you can do is feel supported and loved, because it's, once again, you are with you 24 hours a day and nobody else, and you are you. Nobody else is you. You're your own algorithm, but you can feel that love and support. And that, I think, is hard. People, you know, I think a lot of reason there's a culture around putting people down and doing toxic things like drinking is because people congregate around it. Like, you know,
Mhm.
you've had a hard week at work. Okay, the excitement is going to a pub after work on Friday, bitching about the whole week, which is you basically and your decisions, while you drink something, which is
I like
also
how you slid that
poisoning.
in.
Yeah, so it's like, and now it's like, hey, it's, you know, I did the best this week. I loved this week. These are my choices, like sitting with that and not falling into like that group algorithm. This is your algorithm. You get to choose.
And also celebrating yourself and your, like you said, your wins. That's so important, especially if you're early on in your journey, just as much as later on in it, you know, and not starting that, going down that path of you're doing something wrong. And that's so true. I think also being like having a lot of raw foods helps give you that clarity to make some changes if you're not seeing things that are going the way they, that you want them to. Like if you're at a job, sometimes you'll just stay in it because, you know, I'm, like you said, putting things into my body that are harming me. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm complaining, and then it goes into a cycle. But it seems like when you have raw foods, it's like, you know, maybe I can start to make some changes, and you get that almost confidence and clarity to be able to see your way out of other situations.
Yeah, and I'm going to move just down to some of these questions here. So what are your thoughts on ex-vegans? So I learned in this journey, and I think when I first get on this journey, and I've spoken about this before, how when I got like really high on fruit and I ended up with problems with blood sugars and low sodium and everything, is when I got there, I almost was like, everyone else, including the world, was almost like, it's toxic, it's poison, they're eating bad. Like, it was negative. Like, did I even, like, I was in, obviously, my nutrient deficiency represented the deficiency I had allowed into my life. I had to accept that my body, my personal body, prefers a lot more greens. It likes to be more grounded. It likes the minerals. And when I found the raw foods that works for me, I stopped essentially putting people down. What I probably would have thought of an ex-vegan or ex-raw vegan back 2 years ago is very different from what I do now. And that is because this whole planet is God. So to start, and me, I'm everything because I am part of God. So when I start putting somebody else down, it's just, in my world, it's like putting myself down, and I start to tip out of love. If I start to tip out of love, my decisions aren't great. So there's that general point. What do I think on ex-vegans who haven't been able to make it work is, if you're going to make this lifestyle work, do what JJ does and do what I do. Do what works for you. You might be a person who has a handful of cashews at the end of every single night, and that keeps you raw. Like, you may be someone who does high fat. You may be someone who does high carb. You may alternate. You may be someone who does it and does a cleanse at the end of every 10 days. When you understand that no one person in this community has a protocol for you, and you have to create your own algorithm, because you will move that. It's the same no matter what diet you do, but with raw foods, you just feel good. Like, no matter what lifestyle somebody does, if I look on Instagram, people who are successful at their lifestyle aren't copying somebody else. They've narrowed in what works for them. And when you don't, like I said, we come across to this lifestyle based off like very allopathic and westernized ideas of healing. So it's like, okay, this doctor's got this specific diet, and you've got to take this herb, and you've got to take this or this medication, and this specifically fixes everyone in the world. This doctor is saying that if everybody ate this way, everybody would be perfect. And I don't believe that. I believe the way that God created the universe is that each of us, from what I understand, it's to spread even God consciousness, in that the more experiences each soul has, the more the whole is greater from it. If we're all out there doing the same thing, what has consciousness as a whole learned? And this is my interpretation of it all. So we're supposed to go out and be different. Like, I see JJ salads, and they're different to my salads, different to Lissa's salads, different to Kiko's salads. Everyone, when they're having their salad at night, it looks different, because each of us are like asking off the universe really to reflect back into our bodies what we need, and that's different. So my thoughts on ex-raw vegans are probably that they haven't branched into that specifically. And that then, sorry, I'm going on here, JJ, but that then leaves.
That's okay. I'm enjoying it.
Moves on to Soul Tides has said, hi, I've been raw or vegan off and on for years, but never felt better after. But I've never felt better after consistently doing it. So it maybe I never got past detox. Do you have any tips on how to get past to continue on your path? Now, I never focus on detox, because to me, that's like, I want to get rid of something in my body, where I'm someone who believes all has purpose. But what I do know is, some days, and to this day, I could not stay raw unless I went to the shops and grabbed like 3 avocados. Some days, like, my body is just so, that's for me. Some people, it might be something else. But you have, before you're about to throw the whole diet out, I always ask myself, if I could have any food right now that would keep me raw, what would that look like? Or is it some sweet potato in my salad, and I will still feel good? Now, I don't know what everybody's doing, but a lot of people I speak to have dove down one path. And then, like, as in, when they've come off it, they've been really high fruit, or they've been someone who's done greens and chia and flax only. And that's great, but you may, even on the chia and flax diet, need a few days on fruit. And the other thing is, if someone's done high fruit and they're like, oh, I then tried the greens and chia, it didn't work, it won't work for a while, because the way that the body's running is it's had such high fluid. You've got a microbiome which is more spread out, because that's what's needed. it will take a while for you to build back in. And so it's work. And I don't know what how you were eating, but that's kind of my. So also, have you seen the? And I'll let you speak in 1 second. Seen the vegan
Don't
deterioration
worry.
is yeah, I have seen it come up, but I don't focus on what I don't want to become. So like if I just watched something like that, that would just build fear. But it'd be like, have you seen the comments under the keto, like ex-keto ones? They're extreme. They're like, I hadn't gone to the toilet, I had migraines, I had severe, it just goes on and on. So it's like you can focus on the negative, or you can spend that time moving across and being like, there is so much out there. There's fermented foods, there's sprouts, there's microgreens, there's dried spices, there's nuts and seeds, there's fruit, there's like, we're only really talking about 2 more things here, and that is animal byproducts and animal products. They're the only extra things we're talking about here, because essentially on a raw diet, you can also have the sweet potato if you want, and the quinoa and the tofu, and just do high raw. So we're talking about a very small thing, which those animals and byproducts ate the food that we're eating to get their products inside of them. So that's my thoughts. Go for it, JJ.
Much of us, we always are pretty similar in the way that, we think. So I'm like, if you needed to answer it for both of us, that was perfect. I didn't know where we were, but we're still good on time, it looks like. But, I think what we were talking about is those principles and finding your way. Like sometimes we can think of this either this way or this way. And we have years and years of programming that we needed meat and we needed dairy. And as much as we can learn in later in life, that little bit is still there, I think, in the back of people's mind. And then when we go into raw, we're like, no, you have to have, cooked food because that's what we've always had. And like sometimes your brain can go to other places instead of trying to work out like how can I make this work sometimes. So I think we have to find that range of, like you said, what works for you to be the absolute healthiest. Like I think for me, deep down, my principles, like I know we're not meant to eat animals, and that is just something that's like ingrained in me now, almost like I don't know. Like, I just don't believe it. I don't believe I'm supposed to eat animals. So, like, everything I do and all choices I make are always to not have an animal product when practically possible. But when it comes to, and we've talked about this, I've gone from raw to high raw, raw to high raw, off and on, and so within that level, however I can feel healthiest. And yes, I've done the same thing. Those avocados were like saviors for me because sometimes I was feeling like wanting something dense. And then there are times where I've veered into, I am going to have the quinoa and the sweet potato or whatever. So like, I just want to like, I started to look at it like, how can I feel my best and be as happy as I can and stay within those standards of my
Yeah.
whole foods that I'm eating, and I ultimately feel better and know that I feel a lot better on a high raw type of diet. And it's not one size fits all, like you said. I feel best doing a little bit of fruit and then also my big salad at dinner. But I know there are people who have lived for 30 years eating mostly on fruit, and maybe that's okay. And maybe at certain points in my journey, that was me. It's just working it out to a way that you don't really, I feel like, get dogmatic. Like I have at certain points, I could have given up on it if I had thought I have to eat 375 days of watermelon or I'm a bad raw vegan, right? Or something like that. That's, I'm
Yeah.
being extreme, but you could think something's not working when you're not getting all the nutrients, in. So I think I've been able to keep an open mind and learn from a variety of different people. And the people that I learn the most from are people like the way that you and me present it, to find your way and don't get stuck in you have to do it this way. There are certain things I feel like that are healthier than not. Like I don't feel like if I only went on a walnut diet which would probably be okay with me because I love them, but I don't think that would be very healthy, right? To have only walnuts. But like
Hmm.
if you need to have a higher amount of walnuts, don't get so stuck on I have to have 1% fat, to not feel your best and to think that the diet's not working if you can't do it just like someone else. That was perfect. And I think we go back to what we know, and that's what I think happens when people say they're ex raw vegan or, vegan. I think with the principles of veganism that I know, I'll find a way to make that work so I don't eat an animal. That's the way that I feel like that has happened to me since I've become vegan. So for me, I wouldn't. But if somebody thought their life was at risk and they couldn't get that out of their head that they were supposed to eat animal products, I think that's what
Hmm.
happens. So they ignore the philosophy and do survival for themselves.
Yeah, and I tell you what might put some minds at rest is when I was one of the last times I was in hospital and I had a nutritionist visit me and I was vegan, not raw vegan, but vegan. This nutritionist said to me, "We now know that meat causes," and I was at the time I was very, very sick, so it didn't really like it shocked me that he was saying this because I've never heard it before. He's like diabetes, cancer, arthritis. He just listed off what they now know. So it's more if, and I saw about this about I'm saying talking about people. I think being whole food, plant based, and being high raw and raw is all amazing. I think and I think we're talking about here, or I thought we were talking about here, people when you say ex raw vegans who just go back to kind of meat, is what I thought we were talking about. And yeah, there's doctors. So it's not even when people have these fears, doctors are even saying now that plant, but a lot of the doctors on it's only some extremist doctors which will be saying like meat only. I think it's like, what is it, Paul Saladino or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Besides that, most doctors are saying mostly plants, like mostly eat mostly plants, and you will do your health will come. So I don't think going, leaving. I thought, we were talking about veganism, but yeah, no, I knew Marcus and Cara. They've always spoken about tofu and um, like cooked foods, like cooked soups. Kara's had them in her What I Eat in a Day's 4 years. And a lot of raw vegans, like it's kind of changing as in like, I mean, it depends what you're comfortable with, but it's kind of like as long as you eat 70 to 80% raw, you're a raw vegan is I mean, I think everyone classifies it in a different way. And it's really doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. You've got to feel good. And
Mhm.
you don't have to be raw. I think a lot of people come to raw because they're not well and it really does help us. But if you feel great with like whole foods, cooked whole foods, I don't ever think any processed diet is ever going to serve anybody. But like if you want to do like any whole foods, I think that's um, so
Yeah,
Skye,
that's it. Our soul tides. I remember mentioning that about the nuts too. Yeah.
Skye, do you think you could have healed on a vegan diet? Maybe it would have taken more time, maybe. So it couldn't happen on a vegan diet because of how destructive. Well, I'd been on a vegan diet for 2 years. Yes, I drunk for 3 months of that and my liver failed. But even after that, I was still struggling with going back to drinking. My blood, when I went vegan, stopped making proteins. So now I already had problems. And then when I started eating vegan, and I was in a private hospital at this time, wasn't drinking. I was under a nutritionist, and she said, "You're eating enough protein." She goes, "You can eat some more nuts, but we're giving you tofu and tempeh, and there is no way mentally where I was. I had to have the clarity, but that doesn't mean that other people don't. I mean, I feel like you have to understand I was very, very sick, but how I even feel when I have some dehydrated food or some tamari for a few days, Nama shoyu, like I predominantly feel best clear and just present and my best eating light. So for me, but it doesn't mean that other people, um, and as for the nuts, nothing in a packet is raw. But I like to say a raw vegan is someone who eats food in their rawest form.
Hmm.
So, of course, Like any spices on food, not raw. Any seaweed, even if it says raw, not raw. Because if it's in a packet, it has to have enough heat applied so bacteria doesn't grow. But my philosophy is I'm not a frugivore anymore. I'm not frugivore diet. I'm not fruitarian like I was. I'm a raw foodist. So food in its rawest, purest form is how the only way in this world. So
I'm a JJ-atarian now.
I like that. Do it for you.
Right, right. Yeah, no, you're right. Because I think that's so difficult. I don't like when I see like the arguments within our community about that, because I think, you know, yes, we want to be as raw as possible, as the way that I feel best. But I think it can also deter people, like it almost did to me. I just felt really defeated when I found that out about the nuts. And like, depending how people, you come off to beginners especially, it's like, when you're doing the best you can, you have to just celebrate that and say, like, if I came from eating
Yeah.
all processed meat, dairy, and cooked food, let people go in those levels. They'll end up figuring it out, and getting to a point where they feel good. But, we don't also want to fault ourselves because, we can't, we don't live in nature, let's just say, right? We have to live in this humanized world, but we just have to do the
Yeah.
best we can, I truly believe. And I'm so proud of everyone that's even vegan, and then to go into whole food plant-based. That has its own set of difficulties. I've, with people eating in restaurants and things, I know it's definitely a sometimes can be a challenge, but it's all how you look at it. It can also look at it as easier to eat whole food because you don't have to do a lot of stuff with it. And then that's how I feel about raw. I feel like it's a really simple diet, but people overcomplicate it because it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't know what to eat. It's like it's so much easier to grab and go, but like the way that we can twist it in our mind when it's something not familiar to us, right? Like I just think the more levels you go and you're like starting to learn health and natural hygiene and everything, you can hear so many different things and theories, and you just have to come back around to, how do I feel my best? And the level of raw that I can do is just exactly that, like whatever I can do. Like someone told me
Yeah.
mangoes are cooked, or not cooked but flash heated, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So
Yeah. Lisa
mangoes
told me
not
that.
raw, like the best
Yeah.
we can, right? Let's just do the best we can. And we're still eating more raw than 99.99% of the world, right?
Yeah. So I think it gets, we shouldn't spend any of our time, like as you said, and I always say, if you're a raw foodist, you're doing what 99.999999999% of the world cannot do. Don't worry about the things that you can't get that have to have heat applied. They're not major parts. Like most of the stuff that my body wants is fresh. But the stuff that's drier, including nuts and seeds, are so nutrient dense. I don't need a lot of it anyway. To me, they're like little supplement pills. We don't build people up for eating raw food and having a supplement. It seems to be that they add a little bit of cooked food or something, and then they're not, they've done something wrong. It's
Right.
like these aren't even most people who classify themselves as high raw. It's fresh all day. Actually, a lot of high raw vegans probably eat even what's classified as more raw. Like a lot of them do fruit all day. And then at night, they'll have a salad with a sweet potato or a salad with some tofu.
Mm-hmm.
To me, high raw, it's the same thing. It's just something extra that their body needs that we, as you said, we can't live in nature. The more we get our head in the algorithm that, oh my God, this is not raw, this is not raw, this is not raw. It's already making me feel bad. You
Right.
you start to
Just
feel
saying it, right?
bad, and then the universe matches that. You're better off just going, I love my green juices, and I love, like, I don't know, I loved all the fresh produce in my salad, and I loved all the mangoes I ate last night. But there was some ground chia and flax oil helps me a lot as well, which I share. Um, and it is what it is. I'm like, I feel like I'm a happier, better, grounded, more loving person because I give my body what it asks for. I don't, worry about it. But, to me, I'm raw. If I'm not raw to someone else, it doesn't really bother me.
I agree. I
So,
totally agree. Yeah, I think that we have to look at
uh,
everything like that. Soul tides. I think that everything processed or that's put out for money probably isn't done according to what the best nutrients are. So I do, believe that there are, depending on where the food is grown and things, I'm sure there's better quality and not. I agree with that. I don't agree that it's all the same. But what you choose to do with that, whether you want supplement or not, is all up to each individual, like what they are feeling or what their research does. But I do feel like we do have some, at some point we have to understand that things are done for profit. I agree.
I think also when we talk algorithm, we want you to create your own algorithm. So when you look at Skye, me, I'm 44. I was sick most of my life. I've got more than 7 missing organs. It's like 9 or something. I've had nerves removed, ligaments removed. I've been injected and taken copious amounts of medication. Probably periods of time where there was more chemicals going through my system than food. I have my own set of genes. I live in Sydney. I have, my own emotions and trauma, and I need to create a algorithm for where I am right now, which is 4 years into being like raw and eating fresh, and what foods I have around me, what people I have in my life, how often I have people in my life. I have to create my own algorithm. And what we're saying now is there's no one algorithm. We want you, if you want a bit of sweet potato at night because that suits you and that keeps you from not, eating things which send you backwards, that's self-love. That's the choice. That's the right choice for you. If you, like me, I like to go in the ocean every day. That helps me. That's part of my algorithm. You have to know that no podcast, no other raw foodist, no other doctor has any answer for you. All they do is have things that they've learnt, and a little tiny snippet of that may reflect on you and you might want to try. It may serve you, may not, may stay in your algorithm. But when you realize your job is to not follow a set book with some sort of XYZ algorithm, it's to create your algorithm. These are the people I see stay raw. The people that I see stay raw long term are doing what they want, what works for them. They're not even people who are like, they do medical medium. No one's doing just medical medium in 10 years time or 7 years time. They've incorporated other things. To me, once again, that shows you need to create your own algorithm. And the battle can be that we've come from this idea in schools that there's like one optimal way, optimal diet for humans, optimal way for weight loss. No, you have to find the optimal way to create your algorithm.
I love that. And a lot of times I love getting ideas. It's wonderful to see ideas of what people do. And I think that's why we love those what I eat in a day, because we want to look at them and see what others are doing within this lifestyle. But once it comes down to it, you have to figure it out. And I think that we can't make these blanket statements that was perfect, like you need a supplement or you don't need a supplement or whatever, without individualized counseling for the person themselves, because we don't know, like you said, what their history is, what type of absorption, or whatever's going on. Sometimes you can eat one thing that blocks the absorption of something else, and like if you want to do it to be safe, I don't think someone should say you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't make these overall statements. Personally, that's just the way I feel, but I know they're out there, and I just prefer not to do that. But I think we all are on this path to try to be as healthy as possible and do the best for ourselves. I think that's what they're doing too, and that's what they believe.
100%, 100%. So, okay, that's it for this week. We did start a bit early, so.
I forgot. I was like, wait, you're right. We did start early.
we did start early, but truly, like, I hope it comes across, and I'm sure it does in most of these talks, is that we're trying to encourage you to do you, because I feel if you ask me what the biggest reason is people don't stay raw vegan or able to do it, is because they've gone into it and they're like, I'm going to do a smoothie diet. I'm going to do a juice diet. And, that's now I'm just going to be raw. It's like, don't worry about what other people are doing. Do bits of what you see other people are doing. Plus, the more bits of all these different diets that you try, assimilate into maybe part of your day. You might get up, have a smoothie. You might then do a salad. You might then do fruit at dinner. You find all the things that resonate with you and create your algorithm. Because I promise you, as I've said before, is the people that I see long term are just doing it their way. They're not like, they haven't created a lifestyle and then like, and I bring up medical medium just because I know a lot of people do it, but they're not like 10 years. It's like, I have not deviated off it. It's like they might incorporate some of his, but just a few pieces. It's not supposed to be. Consciousness and source does not want us to all be robotically identical.
Imagine that, a world full of JJs. That would be a little, that's too many puns out there.
It would be a lot of puns. It would be a lot of puns and a lot of fun. But God wants all to learn in all different ways. So
thank you all for being here. We had some great conversation. I love when a lot of people show up and put in their comments. I love hearing from you all. And Skye, I love your energy as always. So thank you all for being here. And thank you, Skye, for having me on.
Oh, anytime. And thank you everyone for joining. And just to mention, I don't think there's any Europeans. Well, Chantel was on, but she's probably gone to bed now. Is I'm doing the Europe party at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and it will be 10 a.m. I think it's Central Eastern Summertime. Is that what it is? I don't know if it's Central European Summertime. So CEST time.
I think on mine it showed 4 a.m. on Eastern, but
Yes.
I don't, yeah.
4 a.m. Eastern, I think
I'll
it's
try, but I don't know if I'll be at that party.
Yeah, so this is the Europe one. We're going to try get the Americas one going next week.
Sweet.
So
I love those.
Yay! All right. Bye.
Oh, bye, everybody. Thank you, Skye, and thank you, everyone. We're so proud of you.
We are proud.